also the peaceful energy, the joyful energy of the Sangha. So let us bring ourselves to the present moment and enjoy being together, building togetherness through singing. And the first song we will sing is number 3, The Island Within. Breathing in, I go back to the island within myself. There are beautiful trees within the island. There are clear streams of water. There are birds, sunshine, and fresh air. Breathing out, I feel safe. I enjoy going back to my island. Breathing in, I go back to the island within myself. There are beautiful trees within the island. There are clear streams of water. There are birds, sunshine, and fresh air. Breathing out, I feel safe. I enjoy going back to my island. So we can offer flowers to each other for singing. And next song we will sing is number 11, Happiness. And this song is about getting in touch with the happiness we have inside of us in the present moment. And we may have more happiness or less happiness, but we always have at least a little bit of happiness. And when we bring our attention to that happiness, then it will grow, like when the sun shines on the flowers and plants. We can practice smiling as we sing. Happiness is here and now. I have dropped my worries. No for our next song, we will sing Come and Sit, number 15, is to the tune of Red River Valley. And follow along with the lyrics. Thank you everyone for singing together. So we will end with number 13, The Realm of the Mind. I don't know if we can do it with guitar.
I can choose where I want to be.
Do you want to sing one more song? Okay, we're going to sing number 8, Joy, Peace, Love. So we'll sing with the word love as it's printed, and then the second time we'll sing joy in place of love, and then the third time we'll sing peace in place of love. So, dear friends, thank you again for singing together. Very joyful. And now we would like to invite all of the brothers and sisters to come up for chanting before the Dharma talk. Thank you. Contemplation before chanting. The Sangha is invited to go back to our breathing so that our collective energy of mindfulness will bring us together as an organism, flowing as a river with no more separation. Let the whole Sangha breathe as one body, chant as one body, listen as one body, transcending the boundaries of a delusive self, liberating ourselves from the superiority complex, the inferiority complex, and the equality complex.
Good morning, respected Thai, dear beloved community. I just want to make sure that you all can hear me well. Yes? And can our friends online hear us too? Hear me? Yes? Good. We have about 60 friends online, and yesterday I have a chance to do Dharma sharing with one of the group, and it's really nice to connect to our friends who cannot make it here but who are online. So we can give some flowers for those friends. They're here with us too. Thank you. So let us enjoy 3 sounds of the bell. Come back to our breathing, relaxing your body, and just being present. Dear Thai, dear Sangha, this morning before I give this talk, one of my sisters approached me and asked, "Do you get nervous before your Dhamma talk?" And I say, sometimes yes, sometimes no. But if I'm nervous, it will go away very quickly. So thanks to your smile, your encouragement, before I come up here, some of my siblings also give me flowers, so that's very encouraging. I feel I have the Sangha's back. The Sangha is supporting me, and Thai also support me. So today, we have a chance to look deeply into the process of reconciliation. In most tradition, they call it purification. And I've read that there are different ways of purifying. Some people use chanting and prostrating. Some people, they use water, like in India, they use the Ganges River to purify themselves. And some other traditions, they use fire and or incense. And in our tradition, we combine both. We do the chanting and the touching of the earth, and we also do the process of purification by we call beginning anew. I guess in some tradition it's called atonement, or yes, or another term. And I really like the term begin anew because it's like having a new start. It's like our computer or our iPad, iPhone. We need to update from time to time. So ourselves and our loved ones, we also need to do begin anew, to renew, to refresh. So we begin by look deeply into the relationship we have, whether it's with ourselves or with another person. And we look deeply to see what's going on in the relationship. So first of all, we come back to ourselves. We return to ourselves in order to recognize what's happening in terms of our body, our feelings, our perceptions, our mental formations, which is our state of mind, and our consciousness. I will go deeply into the consciousness later on. There were times I fall very sick, and I went to the doctor, and I get all this blood checkup, and the doctor also suggests a few things, but they couldn't find the cause of my illness, and so I come back. I try to take some break from the Sangha responsibility and try to have more time to come back to myself. I still practice with the Sangha at that time. But one day, I have a dream. I dreamt that I was carried up by this huge bunch of balloons, the helium balloons. And I was carried up by these balloons, and they carry me over to this landscape, which has a lot of hills and farms and castles. And I looked closely, I realized that was Plum Village. And so when I wake up, my dream was telling me that my healing, my reconciliation, I need to go to Plum Village. And before that, I already shared with me, that I have some problem with my physical body. So he said, anytime you want, you can come back to Plum Village and to heal. So I think that dream was kind of like the response to that. So later on, I went to Plum Village. I met Thai and Sister Chan Kong helped me with my illness. And just being present, being there, and not to worry too much, and have more time to come back to myself, to recognize what's going on. And I found out that it was mostly because there was a lot of stress accumulated over the years, even though we are monastics, but we can have stress too, because I remember those times we have a lot of retreats, and I was the eldest at that monastery. There's a lot of responsibility, and over time it just gets accumulated. So when I recognize that, I can learn to just let go of my tension, my stress, and then come back and listen to my body, and my body would tell me what's going on and what's happening, what I need to do. Actually, of course, some of you here are doctors or nurses or first responder. You know how to take care of a patient. But sometimes when it comes to our own sickness, right? Sometimes, like Sister Deej mentioned, we don't have the time, or we don't have the energy to take care of ourselves. I heard that some of our caregivers also have a difficult time just giving out and not having anyone to understand them enough to let them have the space to rest. Because we might be the solid refuge for others, so they rely on us. And they don't think that we also need to rely on someone else, right? They think that you can always be that solid rock. But there are times we also need the support of our colleagues, of our friends, of our Sangha, of our brothers and sisters, our parents. I remember my dad was having a stroke last September, and I have to take care of him and my siblings too. So at that time, I know it's going to be very difficult. So I share, because my brothers and sisters, we have a group text. So we text each other what's happening with Dad on that day. You know, how is his pulse? What is his blood pressure or his oxygen, and the feeding, whether it's going well or not. So we text each other, and if there's any new thing like medicine, we kind of communicate to each other. And there were times that, some of us start to have, some problem like stress and overwhelming. So I share with the whole group that, if anyone feel tired or need to take a break, just let one of us know and we take over. Because I know it's going to be a long journey, and if someone is burning out, then it's not going to help. So when we live together, we can find a way to communicate so that we don't have to be the only one to be the solid ground or to be the one that everyone comes to. So when we have a chance to recognize what's going on in our body, we can embrace and can look deeply. And with mindfulness, with concentration, when you get a chance to follow your breathing, come back to yourself, then you can find the way out. And Thai say that the way out is in. It means that we come back to ourselves, then we can find the way out. And we also can learn to let go, because sometimes we are so sure of the situation, we refuse to listen to anyone, even if that person is a doctor or our loved ones. I want to share that, like for my dad, because I spend more time to take care of him with my younger brother, that I can feel how he's like proceeding, like when he's near the end of life, or whether he can go on. So at one point we see that he's getting weaker, and I just tell some of my siblings that, you better be prepared. It's gonna come very soon. But no, like a few of my elder brothers, they don't believe me. They don't believe us. And so, but before that, I have experience with one of the Dharma sisters who got cancer in Blue Cliff. So I kind of know the stage and what we need to do. So when my dad was in hospice, I said, okay, we better look for the funeral home. And since my dad wanted to be buried near his blood brother, I said we better look for the plot that is near that place, near that uncle. Otherwise, someone else will get it. And nobody wanted to do anything. Everyone just like freeze. And they said, no, okay, we do it next time, and keep postponing until like 2-3 months later. And when it comes near the end, I asked, if we can lower the feeding, the feeding, because my dad could not take by mouth. He had dementia too, so he doesn't have that. He cannot recognize. He cannot talk. And my other brother and sister, they didn't want to lower the feeding because they're afraid that, that will make him die sooner. But it's not true. It's because I know that my dad is gonna transition to that state. That I want him to be comfortable. And actually, every time we lower the feeding, he can talk. He can communicate to us. I don't know, out of his out of his store consciousness or something. He just say a lot of things, but when he's on the higher feeding, he doesn't communicate at all. But for me, I feel like if I'm near the end of life, I wish somebody would just, stop the feeding and let me be lucid, because I want to be clear-minded. I want to die peacefully and not having to struggle. And near the very end, my dad, he got a lot of complication because of the overfeeding, and he has to be admitted to the hospital again. And I feel really bad inside because I wish, we let him be more peaceful. But so begin anew, for me, is to come back and to take care of ourselves and to recognize what's happening. We might have a trauma in our childhood that we still have up to this day, and those scenarios, those play, those movies keep playing in our head. And now, as an adult, we still have to face that demon. I remember when I was young, and I was in Vietnam, about 11 or 10 years old, and we swam in one of the beaches near the south of Vietnam, Vũng Tàu. And I didn't know how to swim, so I went with my brother. I have a little flotation device, the buoy, and we got out very far. And at one point, somehow my brother didn't look at me. He was swimming on his own, and that buoy just got away, and I was almost drowning. So my elder brother had to grab me and swim to the shore. And after that incident, I don't like when I cannot touch the water. Every time, the water is higher than me, I just kind of panic because that incident from childhood come back. But when I practice mindfulness with Thai, I come back to my breathing and I say, breathing in, I'm an adult now. Breathing out, I know how to swim. It's really funny, I know how to swim, but I still panic. I still think I'm that 11 years old child who cannot swim. So every time I come back, I keep reminding myself that I'm not that 11 years old child anymore. So, when our trauma come back, we need to embrace with love, with understanding, with compassion, or we can get support from our friends. Like I heard the announcement the other day that there are psychologists and other friends who are willing to offer support. We don't need to face it alone. And if we do, we can bring up the energy of mindfulness, or bring up the energy of our spiritual teacher, our parents, anyone who we feel supported, who can support us at that moment. Or if we have a service dog, we can also rely on our friend, our pet friend, to offer us support. So I'd just like to share a little bit about consciousness, because we haven't touched that in this retreat, and I know that some of you are new in this retreat. I remember Thai, he always share about the consciousness on the first day of the retreat. And since I cannot draw the circle, I'm making an apple. Hope you don't mind. So we have to understand our mind. These are just the 3 amongst the 8 consciousness. It's the mind consciousness, the manas consciousness, and the store consciousness. And we also have the other five consciousness, which is the eye, the ear consciousness, the nose consciousness, the tongue consciousness, and I'm missing one. Huh? Oh, ear, yeah. Oh, I got the ear, the nose, the tongue. Oh, body, yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, body conscious. Yes, the body consciousness. So when the sixth sense, we can pretend that this is the garden. So and there are seeds underneath. Seeds are the things we store in our consciousness. They are the events in our life or the capacity that we have, the talents, the weaknesses, the way to cope with life, everything we store in the stored consciousness. And so when we hear something or when we see something and it touches certain kind of seed, and this seed will manifest up here. For instance, we see somebody and then immediately something come up. In the last retreat, I have several people come to me and say, "Oh, you look like so-and-so, and you look like my friend, you look like, my sister," and I just smile. I can see that, whatever that person is seeing, they're touched by the memories, the images, and they will say those things or they will do certain things. And so the stored consciousness, it has a chance to keep all of that and it preserve it, but at the same time, it transforms it. So it's like a river. It's not, it's flowing constantly, day and night, and it's changing all the time. So I've seen some of our friends who haven't seen me like for 20 years, or some for 10 years, and they recognize me from like former retreats. And they say, "Oh, I know who you are, your sister Giới, Nghiêm." Because they say, I haven't changed. And again, I smile because even though my external appearance might not change, but inside, there's a lot of change already. I remember Thai, when some person approached him and say, "Oh, are you the author of that book, like the lotus in the fire, in the sea of fire?" And then Thai say, "No, I didn't write that book." And that person was just very shocked because they know that Thai is the one who wrote that book. But Thai want that person to break away from the norm, from seeing that Thai is permanent and not changing. So that's the function of our stored consciousness, is to preserve, and then it changes things, and then it kept things as new things. And then we have the madness, which is the interference. It's like a little filter. It's like the lens which we see life. So the madness is the ego. And this ego is, it has a lot of self-love. So it tends to seek pleasures, and it tends to grasp things and possessing things. That's why you see people say, or even little child, you can see in the very early age, you say, this is mine, this is me, you know. And it starts on a very early age. I remember my mother, she loved wearing áo dài, you know, the traditional Vietnamese dress. And because maybe in her time she didn't have a chance to wear these áo dài because of the war, you know, and there's property. So when she raised me, she wanted me to wear áo dài. So I came to the States when I was about 12 years old. And every year, she would take me to a tailor, and she would get some silky material from Vietnam, and get me a new áo dài every year. And I just wear it to please her, you know. So now in her wardrobe, I can see all the different áo dài that I have to wear every year for the New Year's. And even the person who I love, she also wants to choose for me. I remember, you know, there's some, male friend who come to see me. My mom would just sit in the dining room, in the living room. She just sit there. Sit there, so of course we can't talk, we can't do anything. So, you know, those are the ones she doesn't pick. And the ones she picked, I don't like. So I'm really happy I'm a nun. Because right up to when I when I go to the airport, I'm flying to France. But I didn't tell her that will be the last trip that I will go to Plum Village and I will be ordained. Because a trip I took a year before, she knew I want to be a nun. She didn't want me to have that idea. But I have to kind of lie to her that I'm just taking a trip. But of course, at that time also, I'm not ready. I'm not ready whether I'm ready to be a nun or not. And she still invite this gentleman friend whom I know, but whom she picked to follow me to the airport, to take me to France. And I was like, oh, mother. And I come back a year later. She still invite him to come to my house. And I'm a nun already. So I told him, oh, dear brother, why don't you just go on with your life? Don't wait for me. Yeah, because my mother, I couldn't stop her. So I have to ask my friend, I have to tell my friend the truth that, you know, I'm not going to ever return to lay life, so don't wait for me. So manas is very possessing. It takes what it's called true love, self-love, and it's very possessing. And manas also tend to run away from suffering. Sister Dee has shared about denial, how we deny the suffering. We push away the suffering. And is oblivious to the danger of pleasure seeking, and is oblivious to the goodness of suffering. And the fifth thing is is also oblivious to interbeings and interbeing and impermanence. It doesn't believe in permanence. Like I've shared with you, my sibling, doesn't believe that one day my dad will pass away. So they don't believe that day will come. So they don't want to prepare for it. I even told one of my elder brother that, there's maybe only about a week or two for our dad to be in this form, so why don't you come down and see him? And he was establishing his own clinic, his own medical clinic, so he postponed. And we say, this is very important, because if you don't do it, you will regret. But then he said, oh, I have so many things I have to do, So later on, when my dad passed and he wasn't there, he really regret, because he kept thinking that my dad would be there for a long time. So, we need to touch impermanence. We need to see that one day our loved one will pass away, and there's no way we can stop that process. So we can contemplate each day. When I visit my dad in the hospital, every day I look at him in that form. I contemplate impermanence. I read to him the page writing about this body is not me. I am not this body. I'm formed without boundaries. So I keep reading that to him, and I think near the end he understood it, because he was able to let go very peacefully. So, even if our loved ones cannot hear us, we can still talk to them. We can still help them to overcome the fear of death, because manas is very, it has a lot of self-love, and it doesn't know, the danger of, it doesn't believe in impermanence. So why am I sharing this? Because when we practice Begin Anew, this is what I will go next. Most of the hurt that we have, or most of the regrets we have, is because we are affected by manas, by that consciousness, because it has self-love, it has some delusion, it has some wrong views, and it's very arrogant. So sometimes we have too much pride, we don't want to say sorry. We have too much pride, we don't want to begin anew. And it happened a lot in many families and relationships. So when we begin anew and we get to see that, then it's easier for us to understand our loved ones. So begin new process, we begin with sharing about the positive qualities of the other person, because that's the best and safest way to do it. Some of our friends, they heard about begin anew, and they're so eager, they come back right away, and they start to begin anew. And sometimes that doesn't work because we have not watered the positive seeds enough in the other person. When we water enough positive seeds, then it can balance things, and we can share the regrets or the hurt. Just like the garden, if we have too much weed and we're trying to get rid of the weeds, then it's very challenging, right? So we have to plant the flowers. And once the flowers take over, then the garden will be beautiful. So the same in our relationship, we begin by watering the good seeds. And this we have to do sincerely, because otherwise the other person, they just run away. We have to be sincere and truthful. I have done Begin Anew with many of the children with their parents, and they're very sincere, and but also young adults. And it's very touching to see, family reconcile that way. And the second point in Begin Anew is to express regrets. So we might have said thing or done thing out of unskillfulness, so we can learn to apologize in a mindful way, in a loving speech, using loving speech. I want to share with you, one time I was a shopper in the Green Mountain Dharma Center, and one of my younger sisters, she wanted to cook with a certain kind of beans. I think it's called azuki beans, yeah. But at that time for me, all the beans are equal. Because we have black beans, we have red beans, we have different colors of beans and mung beans. So I told her, you can use the other beans. Why do, I need to get you, why do I have to go and get that kind of beans? Because, I already shopped for this week. I cannot go back to the store tomorrow or next day. You have to wait. And she was very upset, and I didn't know. So a few days later, she asked me to begin anew. And she said, you know what, sister? I cannot cook the other beans. And I only asked you for this kind of beans, and how come you refuse me? But it turns out that her problem is not only about the beans, but she have other concern and problems that she couldn't overcome. So we begin with deep listening, with flower watering. We appreciate each other. And I try to listen with my heart open. And I say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know that. If I know, I would try to find that beans for you. And so we make up and we reconcile. So she began with watering the flower. And after she expressed the hurt, then I apologized to her. I say, I didn't know that there's a difference. It makes a difference when you want that certain kind of beans. So next time I'll try to get it. That is to express hurt and express our regret. And the fourth thing we can do in the Begin Anew is to discuss long-term plan, to make room for improvements. Because in our stored consciousness, we might have certain kind of habit energies that push us to say things, to do things. So how do we discuss long-term plan? I remember my dad, he usually not very happy when my mom sit on the passenger side, and she start to show my dad where to go. What do you call it? Backseat driver? And one time I was on a long journey, and this sister, she was going with me, and she was doing kind of similar thing. And then I get a little bit irritated, I don't know why. And then I come, when we end the trip, I told her, please sister, next time let me drive. Don't be, the backseat driver. And then I look deeply and I see why I have that irritation. It's because my dad, he doesn't like that at all from my mom. So I inherit that seed and it's in me. So when we discuss the long-term plan, we can look deeply into how we can build the relationship. We can look into different habit energies that each one of us has, and we tend to push the button of the other person, right? Do you ever have the experience where somebody says something and you just get very irritated? I do, yeah. because we don't understand each other. Sometimes we push buttons. We say things that we don't want to say. We say things that we don't intend to hurt the other person, but we still can hurt them because from their own experience, that would cause suffering. So we have to be very mindful in a relationship. We have to know how to be with the other person. And first of all, we need to be with ourselves. We need to understand ourselves and our suffering in order to understand another person and to live with them. Like, can you imagine my mom? And if I get married to the person who she loves, then what I'm going to do with my life? Right? Because it's not who I choose. It's not, and I don't even know that person will get along with me. But my mom thinks if that person get along with her, they will get along with me. So, yeah, sometimes we believe like that. We think like that. And it happens a lot to many Asian families, where they would just reject the person whom they felt is not good enough in their eyes. Yeah, I have seen different marriage where, the person who married to that person and the parents doesn't like that wife or husband at all. So I think eventually my younger brother, he get married and he didn't tell my mom. because our family, my family, is a Buddhist family. And he's married to a Christian. So in order to not make anyone prevent him from marrying this lovely lady, whom we all accept later on, my siblings. But he was so afraid that he didn't tell anybody until afterwards. So if we can learn to look deeply, to understand our loved ones, then, things will flow better. But if we cannot, then we can learn how to do begin anew. And usually in Plum Village, the begin anew is done with a vase of flower or plant. And we put it in the middle, and everyone just gather around. And one person will come up to pick up the flower or the plant and bring back to their place. And then we bow to the plant because the plant or the flower represent freshness, openness, the most beautiful things in us and in the other person. And we bring it back, we look at the flowers or the plant, and we look at the one who we begin anew with. We share the positive qualities of that person. And after that, we can share our regret, or we can share our hurt. But usually, it's not recommended that you share your hurt in front of everybody. Yeah, because that person might not be prepared for that. So it's better to try to do one-to-one. And we also have the peace treaty, where you kind of agree on a certain term. I have it here. Agree on a certain term with each other so that when you come to the beginning of session, you can practice better. So the peace treaty said, in order that we might live long and happily together, in order that we might continually develop and deepen our love and understanding, we, the undersigned, vow to observe and practice the following. I'm just going to read some of the points. I, the one who is angry, agree to refrain from saying or doing anything that might cause further damage or escalate the anger. 2, not to suppress my anger. 3, practice breathing and taking refuge in the island of myself. 4, calmly within 24 hours, 24 hours, tell the one who has made me angry about my anger, about suffering, whether verbally or delivering a peace note. And then it has the points about the one who has made the other person angry, agree to, first, respect the other person's feeling, not ridicule him or her, and allow enough time for him or her to calm down. Not pressing for immediate discussion. If I can apologize, do it right away, and not to wait until the appointment time. So anyway, I hope the organizer will have these available for you. But these are just points to help us prepare for Begin Anew. And it's too bad we don't have a chance to do it in person in different groups. But you can also learn to do it on your own at home. But I recommend, again, just to do number 1 for starter. Because our loved ones might not have a chance to learn the practice. So if we jump to number 2 or number 3, they're not ready. And that might cause some further division. And there's also a book called Beginning Anew by Sister True Virtue, Sister Chân Đức. You can buy online or I don't know, Amazon. And she have outlined many details about how we proceed to Begin Anew, and also different experiences that people went through with Begin Anew. So I hope you have a chance to do that when you get home. I also want to share that when we do Begin Anew, the first thing we do is to take care of ourselves. So before we go into the session, we take some walk, or we do some mindful breathing with deep relaxation or walking meditation. And when we are there, we are truly present for the other person so that they can share deeply. And we try not to cut the conversation, to cut in or to criticize, because the other person will stop sharing if they feel that they're being criticized. And we also be mindful of how we feel inside, because if we have emotion and we cannot take it, then we can also ask for space. We can say that, can we meet another time and continue this? And we can learn to also relax, because if we're very tense, then it's very hard for the other person to receive. Yes, so by looking deeply into ourselves, by recognizing the state of our body, of our mind, by recognizing the state of our relationship, and by learning to accept, to embrace, and to find a way to improve the relationship, whether it's with ourselves or others, we can help to connect and reconcile. And we can also learn letting go, because sometimes we're very sure of our perception, and we assume that we are always right. But always checking in with ourselves, with our perception, to see whether what I'm thinking, what I'm perceiving is correct. Because Thầy say that about 99 of our perceptions are false perceptions, wrong perceptions. So we can say, are you sure? And we check in with that so that we can remove the wrong perception we have of other person. So thank you, friends, for being here, for your deep listening and hearing my stories. So Thai has a gatha for begin anew. It's all wrongdoing arises from the mind. When the mind is purified, what trace of wrong is left? After beginning anew, my heart is light like the white clouds that have always floated over the ancient forest in freedom. Yeah, and I think Sister Chan Kang put a song to it, but I don't really know the song. But you can look at the gatha of beginning anew online too. So I wish you the best with this practice. And I forgot to say that if you cannot do beginning anew in person, you can also do in writing. Whether that person is still alive or they have passed away. Whether they're close to you or they're very far away, you can still write the letter to them or text them to begin anew. And do it soon as you can. I feel that I'm very lucky that I had a chance to send one of the love letter to my dad when I was when he was still alive, to share about, the thing I appreciate in him, and also my own mistakes when I was a younger person. And I think from that point on, we connect very well, and we can share almost anything. So if you still have problem with your loved ones or with yourself, come back and take care of that, and recognize and trying to find a way to connect again, to reconcile. So thank you again for your presence. We will hear 3 sounds of the bell.
Thank you, dear sister, for sharing with us so beautifully your